Welcome to another episode of Growth Hacker TV. I'm Bronson Taylor, and today I have Zack Onisko with us. Zack, thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Zack, you are the VP of Growth at Creative Market, and formerly you were the head of growth at Branch Out, and even before that, you were with Tickle as one of the early members there. So I think we'll start with Tickle and then kind of work our way forward, eventually getting to your current role at Creative Market. So let's go back to Tickle. Tickle was one of kind of the earliest viral things on the internet. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so you got to be there at the ground level.
Yeah, I think I was employee 20 or so. I came on in about 2003. They came out to San Francisco in 2000. So, 6 months before I came on, they just won the Webby Award for fastest growing startup. And so it was a really fun place to come on. I had a choice of taking the job there or going to Goodby Silverstein, which is agency world, and I chose startup world, and I'm really glad I took that path. So
yeah, that's awesome. So what was the secret sauce there at Tickle? We've had James Curry on the program before, and he walked us through some of the pieces of it. But I'm interested from an employee point of view. What was it that they did, or what is it they learned before everyone else learned it?
Well, I think that the timing was right. They just raised some money right after the .com boom or bust, and so it was kind of dog eat dog, and you had to get scrappy, and so that forced us to look at other ways to grow that other sites weren't doing, and we became just really good at it really fast. I mean, it also helped that we had this all-star cast of people working at the company. James Currier was CEO, but my boss at Branch Out was the co-founder of Tickle. Rick Marini, Stan Chbosky was CTO there. Otis Chandler, CEO of Goodreads, was there. Michael Birch from Bebo. So there's a lot of really smart people there. But yeah, it was a great environment to learn.
Yeah, and it seems like you guys, early on, you really focused on things like psychology, user psychology and what they're doing and why they're doing it, and focus on A/B testing. Walk us through some of that a little bit. What were you guys doing to actually move the needle there?
Yeah, so I mean, originally, when I took the job, I was originally a designer. I went to school for design and came on to work with the marketing team to design creative, and when I first started, I just wanted to make really beautiful, designs. And what I learned really quickly is that we were very metrics driven on the marketing team. We were spending $1.5 million, $2 million a month in marketing. In 2003, 2004, one of the top marketers on the internet. So we became very metrics driven and really. I learned very quickly to design around analytics, and so we, every couple of days we'd get together with the marketing guys and we'd look over the metrics and, look at what worked and what didn't work and decide why. And you quickly see patterns in some of the stuff that we were doing, and we just started optimizing. And so we were able to get higher click-through rates and make online marketing work. Every dollar we spent, we would make sure that we'd get $1 back, and that worked really well for us.
Yeah, was that a hard transition for you, going from kind of the pure design world to the analytics-informed design world? Because I'm a designer as well, and I know that beautiful things don't always convert, and that's hard for me. It's hard for me to reconcile the two.
No, it's honestly still a struggle. I have to put on different hats and kind of separate the two things, because I have this hardcore appreciation for beautiful things and beautiful design, and I also have this hardcore appreciation for growth and virality and user psychology and going after what works. So sometimes the most beautiful thing is not what works. So sometimes you have to kind of separate those two. I try as hard as I can to make sure when those two worlds collide that we're doing the best of both worlds. But sometimes it's the tests speak for themselves, and ugly buttons might get more clicks.
Yeah, there you go, exactly. So kind of looking back, I mean, that was 2003, that was 10 years ago. I mean, that's a lifetime ago almost. But looking back at Tickle and kind of your first, peek into analytics and, just how products are built around that kind of mentality, what's been the main takeaway that you kind of pull from that Tickle experience, that era, that you've kind of rolled into everything else you've done? Is it just that analytics matter, or is it anything deeper than that?
I think it's, James was a great teacher. We'd have weekly stand-ups, and it wasn't just a bunch of geeks, experimenting in a dark corner. Like the whole company was involved and was learning together. So I think that was really helpful in escalating my career and getting more knowledge a lot faster than I can get anywhere else, because we were doing it. And so the main takeaways were just lessons around network effect, and just that viral growth and those viral loops, and what we can do to optimize conversions. And at the surface, it's the stuff that we were doing in 2003 is not very much different from what we're doing today. It's the same stuff, it's the same psychology, it's the same the channels have changed, and some rules have changed, but for the most part, it's a lot of the same stuff. So.
Yeah, and towards the end of the interview, I think we're going to get into more of the details of that sort of stuff. So that's good. I'm glad to hear that. That was kind of where you got to cut your teeth, it seems like. Do you recommend that people get in at the ground level of a rocket ship as kind of the best way to learn? Do you think that's the best way to learn analytics growth, or do you think there's some other path that you've seen others take that probably work out better?
So I think it's different for each person in each company. I mean, it's hard to find that rocket ship, I don't think that, if you're employee 20, the company's probably not at a size where you could predict that it's going to take off and it'll be, 80 people in 6 months or a year from then. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to predict, but I think that doing startups in general, forces you to be aware of growth and marketing and just SEO and just everything that helps your business grow is something that you might not touch or get introduced to at a larger company, where you're just given a certain task. So one of the brilliant things about working in a startup is that you can wear all these different hats.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And that's one of the reasons I love startups, is because I get to do so many different things. I get to learn about so many different industries, and you almost are forced to not be too niche. You have to broaden yourself somewhat just to survive. So I like that. Now, after Tickle, eventually you ended up being a part of the founding team at Branch Out. So tell us about Branch Out a little bit. What was that? So Branch Out is a professional network. We actually started the company 5 years ago. We went through a couple different transitions. It was actually a music social network to start. Uh-huh. And we did social gaming for a while. We did contracting work, and then it kind of turned into Branch Out along the way. And Branch Out basically is a professional network for sharing things with your coworkers. Mm-hmm. Your friends and coworkers in a public or private way. So that's And does Branch Out live on Facebook? Is it in the Facebook ecosystem only?
It was. Originally we were strictly just a Facebook app. So we were the biggest professional network on Facebook, and we last year we made the decision to bust out of the Facebook canvas and pull it out on a destination site. And now they you can authenticate with Gmail and
other services.
I think email's on the way, but yeah, it was a Facebook app for a long time.
Yeah, and so tell us what kind of growth you guys experienced there, because it's kind of phenomenal, the stats around this. What sort of growth did you guys see there?
Yeah, it was nutty. So summer of 2011, we first started experimenting with some growth stuff, and I was heading up product at the time, and part of the product you're kind of coming up with there's multiple things that you're looking at, and part of that is the A/B testing and the analytics. Mm-hmm. We had a good summer. We tried out some things, but we hit a plateau. We reached about 2.5-3 million users, and we weren't really seeing that growth that we really wanted to get to. And so in December, I sat down with Rick, and we decided that we we're going to carve out a growth team that was just going to concentrate on A/B testing, analytics, and working on features that were going to move the needle. Mm-hmm. And so we spent a big part of January looking at the different third-party analytics suites out there, because we built out our own analytics system, but it was kind of a work in progress, and it wasn't going to get to the point that we needed to be at soon enough. So we ended up bringing Mixpanel on board, and then we also brought in Optimizely, which was also a big key to the success. And then we also built out our own A/B testing tools internally for email and also for the Facebook channels.
Yeah.
And then in February we started putting that stuff to work, and in 90 days we basically grew from about 4 million users to 25 million users.
Yeah, that's incredible. One of the stats I saw is 500% in 90 days. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, so that's what you have to walk us through. All right, so you get
Sure.
this growth team. All right, because we can't skip over this. This is the lead right here. So you get this growth team together. You guys are the SEAL Team 6. You go into a dark room somewhere and you start planning domination. What did the meetings look like? What were the ideas that were being thrown around? Like, what was the path to get there?
Yeah. So one of the things that we decided early on, and we actually got a lot of pushback internally, and we just kind of had to keep moving it in this direction, was that we just wanted to make sure that the team could work autonomously outside of all the other product features that we wanted to build on the main product roadmap.
And why is that important to you? Why did that matter?
Well, one, that we needed to release faster. The main site was releasing once a week, maybe twice a week, and we needed to release basically on a daily basis to get all these. We were at such a volume that we were getting test winners at a rapid pace. We needed to push those live and then test on top of those. So it's important to move faster, but also just to focus on growth. So, where the main product roadmap could have growth in that list, but also, all these other, there could be marketing features, there could be like accounting features, there could be like, all these other, features that would be awesome to have, but we decided we wanted to silo so that we could just grow a lot faster. And so what that looked like on so what we started out was like a weekly meeting that kind of turned into a daily meeting. Every morning we'd get together and we just prioritize what we wanted to do, and we aimed to move the needle every day.
Really?
So every day we wanted to build something, test something that would make a difference that day, not a week. So it's very aggressive, but it works really well when you can focus that intensely. And so what happened was that we do a lot of testing. So where we actually focused was on the reg path, so the registration path. So an invite gets sent to a friend. What is the copy in that invite? We tested probably 200 variations of that invite copy. That was one of the A/B testing tools that we built internally. When the user lands, what's that first experience? What happens when that user lands? We tested a ton of variations in just that step, and then along that registration path, we asked users to fill out their profile. We asked people to invite their friends. We asked people to all these different steps. And originally there was like 8 steps, and by the time we optimized it, we had moved it down to 2 steps or maybe 3 steps.
Yeah. So really, you just focus on the registration path. That was kind of the bulk of your energy.
So that was like the first step, was to take those big pieces and move those around and see how that can optimize. And then from there, we optimized more focused optimizations, and that's things like copy and text color. And like I mentioned, the request copy mattered a lot. So we were able to make huge strides in testing that copy, which is, Facebook doesn't give you control of anything except for that copy. And it's little tiny, 1% increases every day that compound over time and add up.
Yeah.
So
where you guys really shortened that timeline, that allowed you to see real results so much faster, because you're not waiting months for a few tests to come back.
Yeah. So that's kind of why it's really important to focus at a high level at first and just really prioritize the needle movers, because once you can get that snowball rolling downhill, things just move a lot faster just because there's a lot more volume.
Yeah.
And so once you can kind of get over that hump, then it kind of just goes.
Yeah, exactly. Would you recommend other startups kind of prioritize in the same way, where they start with really big chunks, like the registration flow, just the main pieces that they know every user is going to go through, every user is going to have to, make decisions in these decision trees for yes or no and these kind of things, and then get more granular? Do you kind of take that mentality other places and teach other people to do the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's pretty common. You talk to the guys at Optimizely who are A/B testing experts, and that's the advice they give as well.
Yeah.
It's just you see bigger results when you make really big changes,
Mm-hmm.
and then after you kind of focus down after those big changes, then you kind of get something that's really fine tuned like an instrument.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned Optimizely a few times. So, I mean, you really believe in that as a product. I mean, it seems to be pretty instrumental with what you do.
I mean, it's just a really valuable tool. There's other tools out there. There's, Google has one, and Omniture, I think, has one, and there are others. Optimizely is just, to me, the easiest tool to get up and running. You just throw a little snippet on your page, and then, with a little bit of jQuery, you can drag and drop. They have a WYSIWYG tool that you can just drag and drop divs around the page, so even marketers with very little technical knowledge can use the product and get tests up and running.
Yeah, that's great. So, I asked you this about Tickle, and I want to ask kind of the same thing about Branch Out. Looking back, what are the main takeaways? As you see your experience there, and you're still involved to some degree, I'm sure. But as you look back, what are the things that you're like, all right, I'm going to put that in my toolkit and just remember it forever?
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson, two parts. Well, first I'll just say that getting viral is really hard to do.
Right.
And so once we started to see that we were having huge successes, we kind of got a little drunk on it.
Mm.
Part of that was that we wanted to make sure that we kept growing at the rate we were growing at. But one of the side effects of growing that fast is that we had scaling issues. So the entire, engineering team were putting out fires just all day long,
Mm-hmm.
Because we're just growing at such a crazy rate that we just didn't plan on doing.
Yeah.
So one of the things we had to do is we built out this health metrics thing where we had people around the clock that were checking these like key metrics to see if something would break, could we get to it and fix that issue faster than if like 2 hours or 3 hours went by where there was something broken on the site that could drop our momentum.
Yeah.
So that took a lot of energy for like 6 months or something, 5 months, where we should have been working on product and product market fit. And there's a lot of stuff that we kind of took focus off of to focus on the growth.
Mm-hmm.
Where, so I mentioned that, getting viral is really, really hard. Retention is even harder. Mm-hmm. So, if you can find that product market fit before you get viral,
mm-hmm.
It makes things a lot easier. And, you have, one of the problems that we had is that originally the product was, it's a recruiting tool. So, it's for people to find jobs, but most people only look for jobs every 4 years or so. So it wasn't something that people were coming back to every day.
Yeah.
So last summer, we decided that we were going to hit the brakes. We got up to a little over 30 million users, and we decided that we were just going to stop the growth. Pulled out some of our viral loops, and decided that we had to rebuild the entire infrastructure from scratch. Mm-hmm. And then 2, we just had to take another look at the product and see how we can find something that brings people back every day in a professional manner.
Yeah, so this is, I think, a first for our show here. So you put on the brakes for growth. You took out viral loops because you really wanted to hone in on product market fit and make sure that was exactly what it needed to be.
Well, it was scaling issues, really.
Scaling, okay.
That's what made that decision, mainly. But also, we early on saw that we were registering users, which is great because we were building this database, right, of potential employees that recruiters could use to source candidates and put people to work. Mm-hmm. So that was great. But then we had 30 million users who weren't coming back every day or every week, which is a problem. So.
Yeah. No, thank you for being open about that and really letting us kind of peek inside of Branch Out, because all we see is the growth blog post about how it grew so much. We don't hear the dark side of it. There was some scaling issues, and even prior to that, there was some PM fit issues, and that's what you have to work through when you're growing. Would you actually have done it differently though? Because this is the hard question. Because growth is almost a gift. You can't just manufacture it at will. And so it's hard to say, we would have reversed how we did it, but then maybe you would. I don't know.
So hindsight is 20/20, but I think that that growth enabled us to raise a large amount of funding, and now we have 4 or 5 years of runway, and the guys are working right now on a new product direction that I think is going to be a huge hit, and it has that they've done the homework and found the product market fit, and I think that they great team, and we could find that growth again. So
and now
I think it's the growth was invaluable for the company. I think that having 30 million email addresses that we can when we're ready to bring those people back into a new awesome service, that that's something that a lot of startups don't have the benefit of.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. Is you have 30 million emails, and it is so difficult to get 30 million emails. So now, it's going to help you find your product market fit for the next thing. Using some of those as test cases, and then you're going to have this huge audience to have inbuilt real, users. I think it's a great way to look at it. So now let's talk about Creative Market a little bit. You're currently the VP of Growth at Creative Market. What is Creative Market?
Yeah, it's a marketplace for buying and selling digital goods. So creators and designers all over the world can upload their creations and sell them on our marketplace. So we cover the marketing and the reach and the credit card processing and all that. So basically, we allow designers to create a storefront that enables them to make passive income.
Gotcha. I was going to ask you what kind of the key differentiator is, because you're a designer, I'm a designer. Like, there's places to go and buy, fonts and images and whatever you need. So is the difference really that you're empowering the end user, the designer, to have passive income based on what they do?
We really just saw there just wasn't a central place online to buy fonts, website templates, WordPress themes, icon sets, illustrations. In the future, we'll have photos. So really just one kind of central creative hub is our vision for the company. So that's a concern. And also just when you look at a lot of the stock and micro stock sites out there, those companies take a really large percentage of the revenue share. For an example, some of the other guys
exactly
percent of the revenue, and the creator only gets 20%. So we wanted to flip that over on its head, and so we give the designer 70%, and we take 30% to cover our costs. So.
Wow. So if you're creating beautiful things, you really could make passive income. It could become something real.
Yeah, we just posted a blog post today. A college student has made $15,000 in his spare time.
Wow.
Just creating goods.
Start throwing up some of my old stuff, stuff I'm not using.
Do it.
Up there. So how long have you been the VP of Growth there?
I started in February.
Okay, so February, March, so you're a few months in there. So far, what's the difference been in growing something like Creative Market as opposed to a Branch Out or even a Tickle? Because now it's very design oriented. It's a marketplace, like a true marketplace. There's actually someone making and someone buying, not just needing to connect two people. So I'm sure there's just so many differences. But how do you see the differences and the similarities there?
I think the design element is definitely a huge difference. That was one of the attractive things that made me join the company, is that my background's in design, and I could work on a growth role in a marketplace that for designers. So that was really cool. But it's also, we want to make sure that our design is world class and top notch, and that the experiences are just awesome. So it's definitely a higher bar than a general audience. But the main difference is, I think, is that branch out, our KPI, key performance indicator, was to focus on, bringing in daily new users. Our main KPI with the marketplace is, revenue. So, we're also looking at daily visitors and new users and things like, repeat purchases and, shopping cart abandonment and metrics like that. And also the marketplace growth, like how many sellers are we bringing on per day? How many products are being added per day? But at the end of the day, that number one metric is revenue. So I think that is also something that's really cool, is that, we have that business model on day one that we're working on building, and it's been going great so far.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you prefer? Because I've been involved in both, where, you have runway and it's just about getting users and, the dollar sign, it doesn't matter yet, right? And then other times, it's like, all you're focused on is just the monetization. What do you enjoy more? I know what I enjoy more.
I think that it depends on the company. I think that they're models, it's two different models.
Good political
personally,
answer.
I think I dig the revenue. But you can have excitement and celebration over reaching goals, no matter what they are. And I mean, I think that's really just what's key to growth. No matter what you're striving for, like just setting goals are really important, like weekly goals for your team. And then that way, when you reach those goals, that you feel like you're succeeding and you're climbing that mountain.
Yeah. So right now, Creative Market, what are your primary strategies? You've been there a few months. I'm sure you came in with some ideas. Now you're probably getting from the strategy to the tactic phase. You're trying to actually implement some of this stuff, see how it goes. So what is kind of your thing you're trying to do to move the needle there?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the e-commerce play is a new thing for me. So I've been experimenting with a ton of different stuff. I've been learning a ton about SEO, and we've got we've built a lot of organic traffic just in the last couple months from our SEO efforts.
And what are you doing with SEO? Tell us a little more detail there. What is your SEO efforts?
So, we're just trying to be more content marketing aware of, what our customers are searching for, and then, building out blog posts and making sure that, our products are amply named and there's tags and, all this crawlable data is associated with our pages, so that when our customers are searching on Google for, a really cool or organic looking WordPress theme or whatever, that we come up in those search results. And so there's a couple different approaches. There's the long tail approach and there's a fat head approach, and we're kind of dabbling in both right now and experimenting in what's working.
Yeah.
But I would say the big part of that is content marketing and really focusing on SEO is kind of two parts. One, it's there's a bunch of technical optimization things you can do on your side, but then the other side that's even more valuable is those inbound links. So we're just doing a lot of just reach out to other people in the design community, and also like marketing communities and small business communities, and just anyone who could use design assets to grow their business. We're reaching out to them and asking, doing like tweet trades and blog trades and things like that, and it's working out pretty well. I mean, it's organic, kind of word of mouth.
Yeah.
It's different from what I've done in the past, but it's working really well so far.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. In the past, it's let's implement a funnel tweak and watch our signups go up higher. Where now it's more raw almost. It's more hustle. Yeah. It's more let's reach out, talk to people, trade tweets, trade blog posts. And I'm glad you went into that, because people are in different situations, and if you're not in a tickle branch out situation, you may want to not listen to those strategies as much. And if you're in a creative market situation, you need to listen to these kind of strategies.
Yeah, so I mean, another one of the reasons is that creative market's a really small team, and so we have we don't have a lot of engineering resources, and so we have this awesome roadmap, and we do have a lot of those growth product features on that roadmap, and we built out a lot. We just integrated Facebook Connect a couple weeks ago. We have like a like feature that's going out. We've increased our inbounds from Facebook like by 300% or something, and so there's a lot of those kind of like bigger feature rollouts that we have planned that is just going to take time to get there. And so, yeah, in the meantime, we can do a lot of hustling on the side that doesn't require engineering resources.
Yeah. So you mentioned the SEO and kind of the inbound links. Any other kind of pieces to the strategy? I know in the future you got some engineering stuff, and that'll be, A/B testing and the flows and all that. Anything else that you guys are kind of focusing on besides those?
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that, I'll just say that I'm experimenting with online markets, with paid marketing. So I'm trying out all these different channels and just seeing, if we can get a low enough, CPC, and looking at our click-through rate and looking at our conversion rate and seeing if we can actually affordably, bring on new customers.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot of work there. On the product side, I don't know if I can talk too much about what's coming up, because we are doing some pretty big, really cool stuff that no one else is doing. Yeah. So, keep an eye on it.
Maybe after it comes out, you can come back on and tell us about it.
Yeah.
Once the cat's out of the bag, you can
Sure.
let us know about it. No, that's great. Are you using any? You said you're dabbling in pay-per-click. Are you just going to traditional, Google Ads, that kind of stuff? Or are you trying some other marketplaces for that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so buy sell ads is a pretty cool design creative ad network that I've been dabbling in. I'm trying to steer away from the kind of bundle packages, because I just find if I do the research on a site and just go directly with them, and I try to go direct if I can.
So you'll go to buy sell ads, but then go directly to the blog.
No. There are other design sites that aren't on buy sell ads. So if I can reach out to those guys first, I tend to get a better deal that way, and I kind of negotiate and get talk them down on their asking price. It's fun. I mean, at this point in the stage in the company, we just launched in October. It's like we're just trying to find what's going to work, what's going to be that one thing that we can just scale. So it's just fun to try all this different stuff and just experiment.
Yeah, no, I like that thing. The one thing you can use to scale. I almost think that to do growth well, you have to have no mercy when you find the one thing that works and just drill down as much as possible. The analogy that comes to my mind, which is kind of lame, but when I go and play basketball, I'm really tall. And so if somebody's guarding me who's short, I literally stand in the basket and have them throw me the ball. And yeah, it's lame. It's it's not fun. Everybody hates it. But it's you have to have that killer instinct of when something's working, just do it as much as possible. And that's kind of where you're at now, is the experimentation stage, to see what that one thing's going to be that you can just exploit, right?
Yeah, I mean, exploit is a little dirty word.
Well, I don't mean it in a negative sense. I mean
it's true. I mean,
really use that channel well.
We're all looking for opportunities, right? So I mean, that's the growth thing is and that's kind of what I mentioned, at the beginning, is that prioritization is so important to talk with your team and find out, discuss what is going to be that needle mover. Where should we spend the next, couple days, week, 2 weeks, whatever, focusing on, hoping that this is going to be the thing that works. And what happens is, one thing out of the 10 things you try actually does well, and the other ones fail. So,
and let's talk about it for just a second, because people watching these interviews, they can get the assumption oh, everything these guys try work. Everything they do just kind of turns to gold. They have Midas's touch. The reality is, almost everything doesn't work, right? Or even actually works negatively. You change something and it breaks it, and the flow is worse.
Yeah. No, that happens all the time. I mean, I think that's the brilliance about A/B testing, is that you can segment off, a small percentage of your traffic and test this assumption, this hypothesis, and I mean, I am proven wrong all the time, and it sucks. I'm a little embarrassed. I'm really? You guys really like that path more? That's shocking. But I mean, it works.
It is, yeah, exactly. Well, let's talk about your skill sets a little bit. I was looking on your LinkedIn profile, and like most people, you kind of list out some of the things that you've worked on, some of the skills you've developed. And one of the skills is just overseeing growth teams. And we already talked about that a little bit, so we probably won't go into it too much. But I will ask you this. When you're looking to hire someone for a growth team, like you had at Branch there, when you said, all right, I want to get a group of people together and really focus on growth, what kinds of people are you looking for? Are you looking for a bunch of people just like you that have this same mindset? Or are you looking for diversification? And what does that look like?
Yeah, so it was important to me when building out the teams that we kept the team small. So originally we were only 3 people, and then we brought in another guy to head up email. But really that team really looks like a full stack engineer, someone who can do front end, back end, and release, and then an analyst. So I spend a lot of my day looking at a lot of metrics and numbers, but having somebody who's just hardcore 8 hours a day digging into numbers and looking for opportunities really helps us shape our roadmap and find where to prioritize our stuff next. I mean, and a lot of that too is just looking at changes in the platform. Like when you're building an app on somebody else's platform, things get rolled out, and it's like, okay, this is an opportunity. Let's stop what we're working on before, and let's go see if we can make something work on this new channel. So it's really like, my background is design and in analytics and A/B testing, and kind of and then I probably wouldn't hire much outside of one analyst, one engineer to a certain point in a scale of a company.
Yeah. So
just because you can just move so much faster.
Yeah. So if you think you got a small team of and amongst them they could do front end, back end, and someone to be an analyst kind of full time, you think that's a pretty good trifecta right there? Yeah.
For just the product growth stuff.
That's what I mean.
Scaling those features. I think that you can have an SEO guy, and you can have a paid marketing guy, SEM guy. But for the core like growth product stuff, I think 3, one engineer, one designer, one analyst is all you need. Yeah, and if you have a good engineer that has an analytical mind and likes digging in numbers, that could be one guy. The designer is also, so
it could be a 2-person team.
It could be one guy if he's a rock star. But the goal is just to keep it really small, because you just need to move fast.
Yeah, I like the idea that it's not one person and that's not huge, because one person is just analyzing the numbers along and kind of doing exploratory, looking at what the data's saying, could be full time. So it's hard if you're also doing other stuff.
Yeah. So many hours in the day.
So many hours in the day. But then if you get it too big, you kind of lose, the return there as well. So I like the idea of like a small team kind of on that mission. Another thing it says on the LinkedIn profile is, something that's obvious, but you leverage analytics to inform and influence decision making. I know you talked about the analytics at BranchOut a little bit. You talked about using Mixpanel there and then building some in-house stuff. What does your typical analytics setup look like? Are those the two you use, Mixpanel and in-house? Or is it different every time? Is there another? Optimizely, I know, is in the mix as well. What are the tools of your trade?
We use, we pull data from Facebook Insights, from, Google Analytics. There's all these different tools out there, and they all have, they're all great at what they do, and they all do different things. There's some overlap between a lot of them. I really like Mixpanel because it's very open and allows you to segment basically any event that you want to segment on, and it's completely customizable. So it's been a really great tool. It has a front end and back end API, so it's you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
So that's been probably my primary tool for analytics has been Mixpanel.
Yeah, that's great. That's actually what we're using, for Growth Hacker TV right now. Is Mixpanel, and it does what we need it to. So,
but at the end of the day, I'm exporting data from Mixpanel, exporting data from all these different sources, and throwing it into Excel, and then slicing and dicing it in there too. So there's not like a perfect thing.
You still love the Excel.
You have to use it.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you also mentioned KPIs, and you mentioned them earlier, the key performance indicators. How important are KPIs for you personally? Is it like a primary thing that you just, how to use them?
It's absolutely essential. I think if you don't start there and, bring all the decision makers in the company and make sure that everyone's on the same page with those KPIs, you're just spinning your wheels and you'll just drown.
Yeah.
So, you just really, everyone needs to be pushing forward towards those company goals.
Yeah. How many KPIs do you have? Is it 1? Is it 3? Like right now, you guys said you're focused on revenue. Is that the KPI, and there's a few other sub KPIs?
We have 3 that are our main KPIs, and then probably underneath each is probably like 10 metrics that help us look into those. And then really we wired Mixpanel to track almost every event on the site just in case there's something that we wanted to dig into.
Yeah.
We can. We're also storing data in our database, and we have we use a tool called Chart.io to graph some graphs there that Mixpanel doesn't have access to. So.
Okay, tell us about Chart.io. I've never heard of them. Maybe it's something new for us here.
Chart.io. It's Chart.io.
Chart.io. Okay. What do they do?
It's just a visualization tool for just graphing out your metrics. So you can run SQL queries, and then it spits out a graph.
Okay, so it can just be like a real quick and dirty poor man's Mixpanel kind of thing.
It's not a Mixpanel. It's more of just a visualization of data. So more of a dashboard tool. That's how you think of it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But it's pretty cool. I think they're a YC company.
I'll have to check that out.
Really pretty.
Now with KPIs, you mentioned, that you have 3 of them, right? And so the revenue is the obvious one. And everyone kind of has the obvious KPI, right? It's either page views if you're selling ads or whatever, How do you pick the other 2 when you have just so much data at your disposal? There's so much information overload. How do you know, like, okay, these are the 3 that we're going to hone in and focus on to the exclusion of other things, possibly?
So, I mean, the revenue is the main KPI, and then the other 2 are kind of underneath that. And I would say those are visitors and new users per day. And then revenue means that we're converting a visitor to a new user to a purchaser.
I gotcha. Basically. So it kind of goes back to what you said earlier about priorities. You focus on the big things like the check or like the registration flow, the reg path, and then you focus on the smaller things, the copywriting. The same thing kind of holds true with your KPIs. What's the main KPI? What are the couple things that drive that main KPI? And what are the 10 metrics that drive those things that drive the main KPI, right?
Yeah, it's all relative. But I think it's really important to just define, because like in BranchOut's case, we weren't at the revenue step yet. We were focusing on building a huge network. So that KPI was bringing in new registered users. So it's just different for different people's businesses, and I just think that it's really important that everyone gets on the same page as to what everyone's focused on, so that there's not confusion.
Yeah. Now let me ask you about the reporting a little bit. With BranchOut, you said it was almost a 24-hour cycle. You stand up in the morning, you decide what you're going to do, and by tomorrow if it worked or not, and you're ready to move on or go deeper with it. Is it different at Creative Market because it is such a different product? Do you have reports going out every day and that you're changing things every day, or is it a week? Is it a month? Like what do the reports look like now?
So I do a weekly report at Creative Market every Monday, and then every 4 weeks I'll do a monthly overview, and we'll look back at the months past. As we get bigger and start growing faster, those will probably become a daily task. At BranchOut, it was daily. As we saw changes. So I think it just depends on the scale and how fast you're growing at the time, and at BranchOut too, we had 40, 50 people at one time, and we only sent those reports out to probably 10 people.
Yeah, gotcha. Now on your profile, it also says you have experience in viral funnels. Is viral funnels the same thing as viral loops?
I mean, they're associated. I think the loop is the invite, click through, conversion, invite. Send the invite.
Well, tell me about viral funnel, because I don't know about this then.
I mean, the funnel's it's the exact same thing. It's just, I guess, just a different way of thinking about it. Is just a linear, just starting with step 1 of your funnel, optimize that, then go to step 2, optimize that, then go to step 3, optimize that. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, great. What have you learned about viral funnels and viral loops? Being Tickle, BranchOut, Creative Market now. What are some of the things that when you think about viral loops and viral funnels, you're like, all right, I know this to be true about virality?
So I think that depends as well. So one of the things that we saw at BranchOut's case is that we were utilizing the request channel on Facebook, which had a really, really small click-through rate. And so to make up the difference, be able to make that click-through rate gain for us, is that we had to increase the top of the funnel. And that means increasing the amount of invites that people would send. And so we developed a UI that would scan all your Facebook friends and then sort them professionally. So we group like all the people you worked with at this company, all the people you worked with at this company, all the people you went to school with. And so that made it really easy for people to bucket and invite more friends than they would if they just saw like an alphabetical list of friends.
Yeah.
So.
No, that sounds awesome. I love that idea, just you saying it. That's great.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now, another thing it mentions is that you know a lot about email. And email seems to be like this unsung hero of so many startups. What have you learned about email, then and now?
It's a bitch.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like, it's awesome because it's always been there, but spam is a huge problem, and and deliverability is a huge problem. So it's something that you have to constantly monitor. Mm-hmm. But if you can get it to work, we've seen all these startups that they're solely based on email as their retention loop. So it's great when you get it to work, but you really have to optimize it so that people are really happy. And we just did a big push to redesign our unsubscribe flow at Creative Market, just to make it more friendly for users to unsubscribe if they don't want our emails, if they want less emails, or so I think there's a balance. I think that it's just like, it's hard because once you have one slip up, it could hurt your deliverability across your domain. So
yeah, absolutely.
But it's awesome though. I mean, if you can get it to work, it could be a huge channel for growth.
Now, when you say one slip up that can hurt deliverability across your domain, you mean one email that got flagged as spam by too many people, and now your domain has a black mark against it, that kind of thing?
It doesn't take too many mark as spams to give you a big thing. The ISPs are getting better at looking at not so much looking at spammy keywords and like stuff that we were doing 10 years ago, but really looking at engagement. So if you're sending people emails that they want, and the content is content that they want, then they're going to open it, they're going to click through, and then you're okay. But if you're sending stuff that's overly optimized, that's you're sending too many emails, you're going to ding yourself. So it's a fine line to balance, and you just have to watch it really closely. But it's a good and evil at times. So.
Yeah. You mentioned the evil side of it. Path is still having their woes with their loop. Just got a little bit too aggressive. And maybe if they had pulled back a little bit, nobody would notice. But they went a little bit too much, and now it's a thing. Now it's everyone has to blog about it and have an opinion on it. So you're right. It's a fine line.
Beyond that, once your email starts going into the spam buckets, it's really hard to get that email out. So it takes time to kind of pedal backwards. So.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Well, this has been awesome. I just have a couple last questions here for you.
Sure.
First, in your career, what's the single best growth hack that you've ever implemented? The small little change that just really opened up something. Is there any moment, or is it just
That's probably the thing that is asked the most, I think, to everybody. And I mean, there's definitely been some tactical things that have moved the needle, like, oh shit, that was cool. But when you look at the graph over time, there's just all these really cool features that move the needle. So there's no silver bullet, and people always think there is. And like when you read these case studies, like Airbnb, they use Craigslist, but they did a ton of stuff, and they had this great affiliate program. They did, anyway. It's never one thing.
Yeah.
I hardly ever.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I would say that.
No, that's great.
There's probably a briefcase full of cool strategies to try. The other thing too is that things that worked for us at Tickle did not work at BranchOut, and they would not work for Creative Market. So it's definitely each company has its own tactics and ways to grow, and you just have to experiment a lot to find those.
Yeah, so it's really about experimentation and knowing it's a process, not about a specific tactic.
It's testing like 80%.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, what's the best advice you can give to any startup that's trying to grow right now? And maybe you just already gave it, which is experiment a lot. I don't know.
I guess the best advice is to, I think that experiment, but also just not to get too wrapped up into all the growth blogs and all. There's a lot of blogging happening right now, and there's a lot of countering opinions, and I think it's really just finding out what works for you and not believing what other people are blogging about as science. There's a lot of smart people and there's a lot of success out there, but it's really just what works for your company is and you just have to find that. So
yeah, that's great advice, because we have people on this show that totally disagree with each other, and yet they're both geniuses that are doing well. So it's like, well, who do you believe? Well, both. Neither. I don't know. Like, you got to figure it out. You're getting perspectives to inform you, but now you have to go do the hard work of growing your startup. That's
Absolutely.
great. Well, Zack, this has been an awesome interview. Thanks so much just for taking time out of your schedule and coming on Growth Hacker TV.
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.